Breaking today, the final traces of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from the British royal family are being erased, and this is far more significant than just the destruction of their former home.
Now, a clear message is being sent, and Charles is bringing in the bulldozers to bury any evidence that Harry was ever there. Why? Because the king is done. He's out. He wants to move on, and it's a very encouraging development.
On the 28th of May, the word went round Windsor that the surveyors had been called in for Frogmore Cottage, not to fix it up, to take it apart. This is the house the British taxpayers spent £2.4 million doing up for Harry and Meghan back in 2019. One family home, 5 bedrooms, a copper bath, the lot. And the plan now, according to The Sun and carried on by the Press Association and Sky News, is to carve it straight back into the separate little flats it used to be. Staff accommodation, bed-sits for the help.
The reason Harry is given Buckingham Palace is that Buckingham Palace is a location that is fully under control of the monarchy. And what I mean by that is that Harry and Meghan can't just invite anybody in. They can't just run things themselves. They are held under the umbrella of the authority of the monarchy. So if they have a friend come over, the friend has to go through security. The friend has to check in. The friend has to give their name. Hopefully they're actually doing that now, because during Andrew's time, they weren't as good about doing that. But every single person walking into that building should have their name down somewhere.
One royal source put it about as plainly as you will ever hear a palace source speak. The cottage has sat empty for 3 years. Even Prince Andrew thought it was not good enough for him. And the thinking now, in that source's own words, is that maybe if they get rid of any trace of Harry and Meghan, somebody in the household might finally fancy living there. Get rid of any trace. That is the bit that stops you, is it not? Not renovate, erase.
A furious King Charles has decided to completely remove all traces of Harry and his time at Frogmore Cottage, with seismic building work which is going to run into millions, and it will make Harry a sad and distant memory. Now, Frogmore Cottage was once the Duke's luxurious home located on the vast Windsor estate. Harry lived there during happier times when he was in the bosom of the royal family. Now he's being deleted, airbrushed away, cut out of history, all at the command of his father, King Charles.
The way you would scrub a name off a door before the next tenant moves in. Now, no bulldozer has actually moved yet, and I will be straight with you about exactly what is and is not decided as we go. But over the next few minutes, I want to walk you through what is really going on here. Because the man who has watched this couple longer and colder than almost anyone, the biographer Tom Bower, believes this one small house in Windsor tells you everything about where the Sussexes have ended up. And there is a single question hanging over the whole business. If even Andrew turned this house down, who on earth is it being cleared out for?
With this home still vacant, and with this home basically left as Harry and Meghan left it, there is, of course, always the thought, the fantasy of, oh, we can just come back. But the monarchy is sending Harry and Meghan a very clear sign here. There is no coming back. You can't just waltz back in and waltz back into this house and waltz back into all of our lives as if nothing happened. This house is going to be renovated. It's going to be changed. It's going to be given to somebody else. It's not going to be for you. It's going to be for somebody else.
You know, they are quite literally erasing, expunging every trace of the Duke and Duchess of Duplicity from the royal residences, from the royal estates.
Here is a sentence the monarchy wrote about itself in its own accounts. During the year, Frogmore Cottage has remained empty. That is straight from the official Sovereign Grant Report. The Crown documented its own ghost house in black and white, in a document we all help pay for. You have to understand what Frogmore actually was to grasp why this matters. It was never theirs. It was what they call a grace and favor home, lent out by the late Queen as a thank you for the work. That is the whole of the arrangement, and it has been the arrangement for generations.
It is very interesting, which I was surprised by, and comes up early in the Betrayal book, is when a very, very famous member of the British establishment, really a household name, is asked by the Queen to explain to Meghan before the wedding what life will be like. And that person goes to visit her every 3 or 4 weeks in Kensington Palace. And after the 3rd and 4th visit, tells the Queen that Meghan has absolutely no intention of staying in Britain after the wedding, and there's a lot of trouble ahead. Of course, it was too late to do anything, but they saw it long before that glorious day in June. And I'm afraid that is her problem. She is very calculating and very ruthless and very promoting, but she's taken on more in the end than she can chew.
You serve the institution, you get the keys. You stop serving, the keys go back. No tenancy, no deeds, no claim. A loan against a job. And in the spring of 2023, a few weeks after Harry's memoir had landed in every bookshop in the country, the keys went back. King Charles asked them to vacate. By the end of that June, they were out, and the house has stood dark ever since. They even offered it to Andrew, mind you, as part of trying to shift him out of Royal Lodge. He said no, sat in his 30-odd room mansion, and turned his nose up at the 5-bedroom cottage his own nephew used to live in. That tells you what the household quietly thinks of the place now. Bad memories and not worth the bother.
Biggest problem is still the inclusion of Harry and Meghan as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex on the website. And this would be so easy to remove because they did it for Andrew. And it's time to do it for Harry and Meghan as well.
And remember who is footing the bill to undo all of this? The sovereign grant, the public money that keeps the royal palaces ticking over, has just jumped to £132 million for this year alone, up by better than half on the year before. So the very fund that did the house up for the Sussexes in the first place is the same fund now paying to wipe them out of it. The taxpayer renovated the place for them. The taxpayer will pay to erase them from it. There is a grim little symmetry in that one. So hold that £2.4 million in your head for a minute. Public money, every penny of it spent. We are going to come back to exactly where it went. Tom Bower has been watching this cottage saga from the very start, and his read on it is not a gentle one. His verdict, boiled right down, is that the Sussexes have gone from the most talked about couple on the planet to a problem the firm simply wants tidied away. And a tidy away, it seems, starts with the bricks.
Harry and Meghan spent heavily on turning the property into their family base, and the UK taxpayer had to foot the bill. $3.2 million. This is money that the British people don't have. Imagine the people around me in this great city of London. Here I am in London Bridge. They're working so hard, some of them on the minimum wage, and their taxes were going towards Harry and Meghan's vanity project, improving a perfectly good luxury house because Meghan was in competition with Catherine.
Tom Bower does not do polite. He is the investigative biographer behind the book Revenge, and his newest one, Betrayal, landed at the very end of March. And when he talks about the Sussexes now, the word he keeps reaching for is desperate. On GB News, sitting alongside Jacob Rees-Mogg, Bower argued that the couple have reached the point where they are, in his phrase, desperate for money, because their main source of income, Netflix, has, in his words, cut them off. He says they are desperate too for royal validation. That is his characterization, of course, not a figure in a ledger, and you can take it or leave it. But the spine of Bower's whole thesis is this. The descent, he reckons, is now a far more gripping story than the rise ever was.
So, they are keep on seeking opportunities to appear in public, keep on seeking opportunities to promote themselves as great humanists, and keep on making mistakes because they don't realize how complicated the world is and how they're totally ill-equipped to cope with those complications.
The climb up we have all watched. It is the slide back down that he finds interesting. And here is where Bower's opinion bumps straight into something you can actually check on the record. Because the money story is real, even if you strip out every last anonymous whisper. Start with Spotify. That deal ended in the summer of 2023 by mutual agreement after the couple delivered a grand total of 1 series. Then look at Netflix. The big headline deal from 2020, the one reported at anything up to $100 million, quietly got downgraded last August into a far smaller first look arrangement.
Rafe, guess what she thinks is going to turn around the finances now? She's actually launching matchsticks. That's the latest. Look at this. Oh God, matchsticks. Well, I guess it's burning down Frogmore Cottage, at least, that the royal family are intending to do, Rafe.
Less money, no exclusivity. The very same shape of deal the Obamas slid into once the novelty had worn off. And it is not as though the work was flying off the shelf in the meantime. Meghan's Netflix series, With Love, Meghan, limped. The first run landed somewhere around 389th on Netflix's own engagement chart for the half year, out of 7,000 odd titles.
These two, they don't do their due diligence. They want to show up, they want their picture taken, and they want to get out of Dodge, and they want to sit back and read the praise. I mean, it was like copy and paste for some of the tacky outlets that worship at the ground of Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle's powerful speech was like, I found 5 different websites that literally it had almost the same headline. Meghan Markle gives powerful speech. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the research. And I think that that's why they have fallen out with Spotify and in some cases Netflix.
The follow-ups did not trouble the top of anything. So when Bauer says the well is running dry, the numbers, for once, are sitting right there beside the opinion. And it is worth remembering just how far this has actually fallen. When that Spotify deal collapsed, a senior executive at the company publicly branded the pair grifters, which is not the sort of farewell business partners usually offer on the way out the door. This was a couple who, only a few short years ago, commanded a memoir advance reported at around $20 million for a book that went on to become the fastest-selling work of non-fiction in publishing history. The money was real once, and it was enormous, which is rather the whole point. That is exactly why the thinning of it now reads less like a run of bad luck and more like a tide quietly going out. So picture it. The institutional door is swinging shut at Windsor, and at the very same moment, the money doors are clicking closed one after another out in California. Bauer does not think that is a coincidence. He thinks it is a reckoning, and the next door to close was the one with Meghan's own name written on it.
The exploitation of the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked for Meghan when she was in the so-called royal tour, which I described in Betrayal in Nigeria and then in Colombia. And she did, of course, the same when she visited Jordan with the World Health Organization. But Bondi Beach was a terrible, terrible mistake, as was her trip to Australia. She fell flat on her face. And she tries to empathize. Well, she did it, of course, in Texas when the school shooting happened. She flew there to lay some flowers and then ignored her father, who at the same time had a near-death stroke. I mean, everything is for commercial and for personal publicity. I think the Bondi Beach was gross. It was insensitive, but it showed the real Meghan. Anything to earn a dime, anything to promote herself at anyone's expense.
In March of this year, Netflix walked away from As Ever. That is Meghan's own brand. The jam, the flower sprinkles, the wines. Netflix had been the partner standing behind it, and Netflix stepped out. Now fair is fair, and I'm not about to sit here and tell you the woman cannot shift a jar of jam. Both sides called the split amicable. As Ever said it was ready to stand on its own 2 feet, and that very first product drop back in April of 2025 did genuinely sell out in about an hour. Credit where it is due. But the pattern, once you line it all up in a row, is a hard thing to look away from.
And so you have people who are able to watch you and keep an eye on you. And that's why Harry and Meghan, I think, liked the idea of Frogmore Cottage, because they were on a crown estate, but they weren't under the umbrella and the watchful eye of the monarchy. And the monarchy can't let them do that. And so they stripped them of it because they proved they can't be trusted. They used pictures and videos and images from that home in their Netflix documentary. And that, of course, is violating security for sort of everyone. That's the thing. Harry and Meghan violate security for everyone in order to promote themselves.
Spotify, gone. Netflix, downgraded. Boeing, which had put real corporate money behind the Invictus Games, has confirmed it will not sponsor the Birmingham Games coming in 2027. And the Australian government quietly declined to renew a $9 million commitment to Invictus Down Under. The chief executive there said his team found out minutes before the budget announcement went live. One income stream after another, drying up or simply walking off the pitch. Even the Birmingham Organizing Committee has had the wobbles, with one of its senior board figures stepping down altogether. Sponsors you could very nearly count on your fingers, set against a budget that runs well into the tens of millions. And that £2.4 million I asked you to hold on to, here is where it went. Into a house they lived in for about 10 months, a house they then repaid every single penny on, in full, back in September of 2020. They are not freeloaders on that particular score, and anyone who tells you they never paid it back is flatly wrong. And then that fully repaid, beautifully done up house sat empty for 3 solid years, and now it is to be carved back into flats. £2.4 million of renovation, and the grand plan is to undo it.
King Charles is conceding here that Prince William is right about the fact that the Sussexes simply can never return to the United Kingdom in any form, can never have any royal role again. Their home, the place that they wanted to keep as some sort of base in the United Kingdom paid for by us, is going to go back to being multiple cottages because simply it is not fit for them to return.
And this is the part that should stop you cold, whatever you happen to make of Meghan herself, before anyone fires off that they are flat broke and ruined. Hold on a second. They are not destitute. Even the most hostile reporting puts Harry's worth somewhere in the tens of millions. And a cushion like that is not the poorhouse. So let us not pretend at something that is not true. But here is what the pattern actually shows, and it is worse for them than broke. It is contraction. This is a couple who marched out from under the institution swearing blind they did not need it, and who are now standing in Montecito, watching that same institution calmly close every door behind them, while the glittering deals they once bragged about thin out one by one by one. They wanted out from under the firm. Well, the firm has obliged them. It's only that nobody ever told them out meant out for good, with the locks changed and the family home turned back into bedsits the moment their backs were turned.
But yes, I think the messaging here is quite clear. There is no place for them within the royal household, within the royal entourage, no matter how much they try to portray themselves as pseudo-royals.
For the longest while, the quiet assumption, even among people close to Harry himself, was that Frogmore was the safety net, the bolt hole. If California ever went sideways, there was always that little house in Windsor to come home to. That assumption is now being knocked down along with the plaster. There is no bolt hole. Once Frogmore is flats, there is no Sussex address left in Britain at all. Not a corner of Windsor with their name on it, not so much as a spare room. And yes, the long quarrel with William sits behind all of this like weather you cannot quite see but can certainly feel. The brothers remain estranged. That much is on the record, and has been for a long time. There is no shortage of loud commentary about what William might do to the titles the day he becomes king, and honestly, I would treat most of that as exactly what it is. Commentary, not gospel.
His father might be a little bit softer. There's a whole load of reasons for that. But William is absolutely categorical that Harry and Meghan just have to be banished. You know, they have to live in exile. And William's going to be furious if the government and this Ravek committee give him the security protection back, because that means Harry can swan in and swan out whenever he wants.
The harder, soberer reporting actually leans the other way, suggesting he may well leave the titles entirely alone, seeing the Sussexes these days as more of a faded embarrassment than any kind of threat. But the day-to-day picture writes itself without a single word from him. The heir, busy, working, photographed laughing with his children, the spare, an ocean away, watching the last bricks of his English life get quietly rearranged for the gardeners. Here's the thing people keep getting wrong about this family. That palace door never slammed. It closed the way a door closes when somebody has quietly taken your name off the guest list and simply let you find out later. So what is it all actually for in the end? The clearing out, the carving up, the cold and methodical erasing of two people from one small house? Tom Bower has an answer for that, and it is the most chilling sentence in this entire story, partly because of exactly who said it straight back to him.
We've seen how mediocre and miserable their trip was to Australia in terms of raising money. We saw the huge embarrassment for Meghan when she went to see the very sensible Swiss in Geneva, and she had enough people there to fill a British phone box. Nobody is interested in them any longer.
That was terrible. 10 people showed up. Well, 10 fans showed up. There were like a few journalists and stuff.
I've never seen somebody try so hard to prove that they're not the most unpopular person in the world.
Someone who fled England because she needed her privacy.
Yeah.
Never let us forget that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, it's absolutely astonishing. And then, of course, the publication of all her very top secret wedding photographs.
Oh, yeah.
To mark the 8th anniversary. That as well, absolutely another invasion of her privacy. I mean, she is literally digging and digging and digging, looking for something to get attention, and probably can't understand why there isn't a huge wave of adoration for her. She's actually puzzled why people don't love her, and that makes it even more interesting.
Tom Bower once said, out loud and in public, that the monarchy in fact depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life. Obliterating from our state of life. And the reason we can be absolutely certain those were his words is, honestly, the best part of the whole thing. Because Harry and Meghan's own spokesperson quoted that exact line straight back at him. When their team came out swinging at Bower's book, they reached for that precise sentence, said it was language that, and I am quoting their statement now, speaks for itself, and accused him of crossing the line from criticism clean into fixation. So there it sits, confirmed from both sides of the war. One man says the institution survives by erasing them. The other side does not deny for a moment that he said it. They simply think it proves he has gone too far.
This story is actually more significant than it may seem, because it is the royal family quite clearly drawing a line. It's making it clear, is it not, Rafe, that we simply do not want them, but also that the royal family simply do not want them. Because of course, if Operation Thaw was real, the obvious place for Harry and Meghan to return would have been Frogmore Cottage. And despite spending all of that money, Rafe, it's literally about to be bulldozed. At least the renovations will be, because it's going to be turned back into, I believe, multiple flats for effectively senior members of the household, which is what it was before Harry and Meghan lived there.
And right in the middle of that bitter little argument sits a small, empty, beautifully renovated house in Windsor, with the surveyors at the door and the plans already drawn up to turn it back into flats. The bolt hole going, the income thinning, and the name being scrubbed off the brick. You do not renovate a house you intend to remember somebody by. The long and short of it is about as simple as these things get. This was never really about Frogmore at all. It was about making certain there is nothing left standing to come back to. That is the story Star Spotlight has been tracking all week, and the erasure, brick by careful brick, is looking a great deal more deliberate than a spot of spring maintenance.
She made some very, very poor strategic errors, thinking she could profit from the title without any consequence, without paying the dues. And of course, in the end, I have no doubt there'll come a day when they both lose their titles, and their children too, because they will just be forced to go too far for their own survival, and at that moment, the same will happen to them as what's happened to Prince Andrew.
The firm is not tidying a cottage. It is closing a chapter. So I am going to hand it over to you. Should the palace just come out and say it plainly, that there is no way back for the Sussexes, or carry on with this slow, silent clearing out behind closed doors? Drop your verdict in the comments. I read every single one. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who care about these stories. And subscribe. There is a great deal more coming this week. The next chapter ships Friday, and we are going right inside what is actually left of the Sussex business empire once you take away all the headlines. You will want to be here.